Hey everyone, this is Rosie, and today I'm going to be sewing a reversible shopping tote that has an expandable bottom that will fold flat when not in use. So let's get started. This is the shopping tote that we'll be making in the video. It folds completely flat when not in use, but it has an expandable bottom. You can make this tote bag in any size you want, and I do have a worksheet to help you with that, which we'll look at in a minute. The bag is completely reversible, so I can turn it to the opposite side, and when you reverse it, it forms this cute little triangle on the bottom sides. There are no raw edges anywhere in the bag, and both the front and back sides are stitched together in such a way that they will not pull away from each other. So whether you're using it on this side or on this side, you will not have a droopy lining inside the bag. Let's take a look at the worksheet that's going to help us determine the size that we need to cut out our pieces. First off, on the worksheet, I'm going to refer to the top band, and that's this piece here, and the rest of the tote is the body of the tote, and then of course you have the handles. The first thing that you'll need to do is determine the finished size of your tote bag, and we're going to put all that information up here. So I want my tote bag to be 14 inches high, and I want it to be 12 inches wide by 4 inches deep. I want the height of that top band to be 2 inches, and then I want my handle length to be 20 inches, and I want my handles to be 1 inch wide, and I'm going to use a seam allowance of 0.5. Now that we have all this information filled in, we can calculate our cutting measurements. So the first section here is the cutting measurement for the top band and the body width. So how wide do those pieces need to be? First, you'll take the width of the tote, which is 12, and you're going to add to that the depth of the tote, which is 4, and then you want to add in the seam allowance times 2. So the seam allowance is 0.5 times 2, that's 1. So if you add these numbers up, 12 plus 4 plus 1, that's 17. Then we're going to take that number 17 and we're going to plug it into these boxes down here. So this box right over here is for the cutting of the top band. And now we know that the top band needs to be 17 inches wide. So I'll put that there. And the body needs to be 17 inches wide. So I'll write that in there. Then next we'll calculate the cutting measurement for the top band height. So how tall does the top band need to be cut? So the height of the top band is 2. I'll put the 2 there. And then I need to add in the seam allowance, which is the seam allowance times 2. And we already know that that's 1 inch. And then we add these up. 2 plus 1 is 3. So again, in this box for the top band, I'm going to add in the 3 for the 3 inch high. That means I need to cut my top band 17 inches wide by 3 inches high. Then lastly, we need to calculate the cutting measurement for the body height. So we're going to take the height of the tote minus the height of the top band. So that would be 14 minus 2 is 12. Then we need to take the depth of the tote divided by 2. The depth is 4 inches divided by 2 is 2. And we need to add in a seam allowance, but we only need to add in one seam allowance, and that's 0.5. So if we add these up, 12 plus 2 plus 0.5, that adds up to 14.5. And then I need to take this 14.5, and I need to multiply that times 2, and that gives me 29 inches. So the body height is 29 inches. And then I can put that number right down here in this box. So the body piece that I need to cut is 17 inches wide by 29 inches high. And then last, we have the cutting measurement for the handles. So I want my handle to be 20 inches long, so I'll put that in here. And then I need to add in the seam allowance times 2, and we already know that that's 1 inch. So if I add those two numbers, I get 21. And then in this box here, I can put in the length that I need to cut, which is 21. And then for the width, you're going to take the handle width, which is 1 inch, times 4. So the answer is 4. And I need to put the 4 here and plug it in the box there. So that means that I need to cut the handles 21 inches long by 4 inches wide. I'm going to be cutting all of my pieces from 100% cotton quilting fabric. There's no need to use any interfacing anywhere in this project. The amount of yardages that you need is going to depend on the size of the tote bag that you need, so you'll have to calculate your yardages. You do want to be mindful about staying away from directional prints for this project. And then you'll go ahead and use your cutting chart and cut out all of your pieces based on the boxes down here. I'm going to cut out mine off camera, and when I'm done, we'll come back and start the construction of the project. I've cut out the 2 pieces of fabric that will be the body of my bag. After you have yours cut out, you're going to take each piece of fabric and fold it with right sides together. And as you fold it, make sure that all of your edges along the top and sides are nice and even. And then you're going to have a fold right along here. This fold represents the bottom of your bag. You want to iron that and give it a really nice crease. Next, we want to mark a line up from this bottom folded edge that's parallel with the bottom folded edge. And for me, that is going to be 2 inches. And the way I'm getting that measurement is I'm taking the depth of my tote bag, which is 4, and I'm dividing that by 2. So I'm going to mark 2 inches up from this bottom folded edge. Now, depending on the size of the bag that you're making, that measurement could be different. But whatever your measurement is for your depth, you'll take the depth divided by 2, and that's how far up you're marking from the bottom edge. I am using a friction pen to do this. I'm only doing it for demonstration purposes. These pens, even though the ink will disappear with heat, they come back with cold, so always be very careful when you're using a friction pen. Now that I've marked on this side, I'm going to go ahead and do the same exact thing on the opposite side. So I will be marking 2 inches up from this edge. So now if I open this up, you'll see I have the crease in the middle and I've marked up 2 inches from each edge. Now the next thing you want to do is take that piece and you want to fold back on each one of those lines. So I'm going to make sure that I'm exactly on the line, make sure that my edges are even here, and I want to press right on that line to make another crease. And then I'm going to do the same exact thing to the other side where I drew the other line. So I will fold this up, make sure my edges are even, and then I'm going to press on that second line. Now you want to go ahead and open the piece again, and we want to bring those 2 folded edges together. You want to ignore the crease in the middle right now. So take this folded edge, bring it right up even with the second folded edge, and just put a few clips in for now just to hold it in place. So I've clipped along the bottom and the sides. Make sure that all of your edges are even, and right along here is that first fold that we created. That is that center fold. I just want to take my iron and just give that area a little bit of a pressing. Now we can set this piece aside for a little while. Now you want to go ahead and take the second body piece that you've cut out. You want to fold that with right sides together the same way that we did for the first one, making sure that all of your edges are even. Then you'll create another fold down here, which is the bottom of the bag, and go ahead and iron another nice crease into that fold. Then you're going to take your ruler and you're going to mark 2 inches up from the bottom again. Again, that's 1/2 the depth of your bag. So for me, 4 divided by 2 is 2. And then for this piece, we're only marking 2 inches up on one side. And then we're going to take the piece and fold up on that line, making sure the edges are even again. And you just want to press on that line, creating another crease. The way this second piece has been folded is going to create that expandable bottom, just like this. And the way we folded that first piece is going to create the bottom with the triangular corner on the side. Now we want to bring back the first body piece, and I'm going to go ahead and take out these clips right here. You can leave the ones in the side for now, and we want to open this up. And then we'll take the second body piece and we want to unfold that crease right there. And this folded edge is going to sit right here on this crease, the one in the middle. So just butt them up together, just like this. Make sure it's all nice and even. And then we'll take this little flap here and fold that over the first body piece. And then to hold it in place, just put in a clip. And put in a clip on this side. Then we're going to take this body piece and fold it up over the first body piece. You want to make sure that when you fold it, these top edges are nice and even. Make sure that all your side edges are nice and even. And then we want to go ahead and clip everything together. So I'm going to remove this clip and put it in so that it's holding both pieces together. And do that on both sides. And then if you want, you can also put a few clips just to hold everything in place along the bottom. So now we're going to go over to the sewing machine and sew a 1/2 inch seam all the way up each side. I like to start at the bottom on each side because I don't want these folds to shift out of place. I'm sewing on the Janome Continental M7 professional sewing machine. I'm just going to sew 1/2 inch away from each edge along the sides, and I'm using a stitch length of 3.0. And you do want to back stitch at both the beginning and the end. When you're finished sewing that first seam, just flip it over and go ahead and sew up the other side. After you're done sewing up your side seams, down at the bottom where the folded edges are, we want to clip those corners. So just clip a little V. Make sure that you don't clip into your stitches. You'll do that on both sides. And then if you open up this seam here, right in the middle, you're going to see this folded edge right here. You also want to clip that just a little bit. And again, do that on both sides. Then when you're done clipping, you're going to iron those seams open. Then flip it over and do the same thing on the other side. If you want, you can trim down these seams a little bit. I usually don't. I usually leave them the way they are, but that's totally up to you. And then you can go ahead and iron open the seams on this side of the bag. And then when you're done ironing your side seams, go ahead and turn your bag right side out. And then you can just separate the inner part of the bag like this. And then you'll push out all of these corners. And once you have it turned, you can go ahead and press everything nicely. Now we'll work on the handles. So you want to take each one of those handles and fold it in half and then press. So you'll press all the way along the length. Make sure that you keep all of those edges even. Then you'll go ahead and open that up, and you want to press each long edge towards that center fold and press again. You'll do this on both sides. Then after you've pressed both raw edges in towards the center, you're going to take the whole piece and fold it in half so that both of those folded edges are together. And then you want to press again. After pressing, put a few clips along those folded edges right there. And then we're going to go ahead and top stitch along the length about 1/4 of an inch away from each long edge. You want to prepare both of your handles the same way. I'm going to sew down the length of both sides of the handles now, 1/4 of an inch away from each edge with a stitch length of 3.0. And you do want to back stitch at each end. When you're done top stitching those handles, you want to take the 2 top band pieces and mark a line 1/2 inch up from each long edge. And you'll do that on both pieces. After you make those marks, you're going to take pieces and fold back on those lines and press. And you want to do this to both top bands. When you're done pressing, you'll take both top bands and clip them together end to end. And we're going to sew these ends together with a 1/2 inch seam, but when you sew them, you don't want to sew it with this part folded down. You're going to sew it open, just like this. So go ahead and clip the other side together. Sew right across with a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and I'm going to do that off camera. I finished sewing those side seams, and now I just want to press them open. After you're done pressing open both side seams, you can go ahead and refold this back and give it another little pressing in that area. Now we want to mark the placement of our handles. So to start, we need to find the centers of each side of the band. So I'm just going to take these seams right here, these are the side seams, hold them together. And this is the center of one band right here. I'm just going to put a little mark, and then I'll do the same thing on the other side. So this is the side seam, so this is the center seam on the other side, and I'll put another little mark. So now that I've marked both centers, I want to mark 3 inches out from each center mark. And that's going to place my handles 6 inches apart. Now, depending on the size bag you're making, you might want to place yours differently, but I'm going to place mine 3 inches apart. So I'll put a mark here, and then a mark over here. You'll do this on both sides. And then I'll take the handle I like to have that double fold facing in towards the center, and I'm going to place the double fold on the outside of that mark and put a clip. And then I'll do the same thing on this side. You want to make sure that your handle is not twisted when you do this. Then mark the placement for the handle on the other side, and then you want to go ahead and just baste these handles in place at the sewing machine, and I will do that off camera. Once you're done basting those handles into place, you want to take the second two pieces that you have for the top band, and you want to sew them together end to end with a 1/2 inch seam. And you do not want to fold back the edge of this piece here. You want to leave it just as it is. Now we're going to sew these two sections together. So you'll take this piece right here and put it over the top band that has the handles on it with right sides together. You'll clip it all the way around. Now that I'm done clipping everything into place, I'm going to sew it with a 1/2 inch seam all the way around. Your handles should be facing down this way, and when we sew, we're going to be catching the top of the handles in this seam here. So you can see what it looks like right here. After sewing the two sections of the band together, go ahead and iron open that seam all the way around. When you're done ironing, just fold this with wrong sides together. You want that seam to be laying right on the top, and then you want to press everything nicely. Once we're done pressing, we're going to top stitch 1/4 of an inch away from that seam line. I'm ready to do the top stitching. It will be 1/4 of an inch away from the top edge here, and I'll use a stitch length of 3.0. Now you should have that raw edge right here, and then inside you should have the top pieces, the top band pieces with the folded edges here. I like to start my top stitching at one of the side edges, and you can back stitch if you like, or you can back stitch at the very end. The top stitching is done, and now you want to go ahead and take the main body of the bag, and we'll open it up just like this, and we're going to place the raw edge of that top band along the raw edge of the body of the bag, the top body of the bag. I'm going to start with the side seams. You want to make sure that your top edges are all even here. I'm going to start with the side seams and pin those together. And we're going to clip the top band to the body all the way around, and we'll be sewing this together with a 1/2 inch seam. Now you want to make sure that you don't catch this folded edge or your handles in this seam here. I have the top band clipped on now. You should have the top band clipped to both sections of the body, and the body, the two body pieces, should be wrong side together. I'm ready to sew the body to the band, and I'm sewing with a stitch length of 3.0 with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And do back stitch. And just sew all the way around. Now I've sewn all the way around that top band, and I'm just going to come back to where I started and stitch over those original stitches just a little bit. And then I'll backstitch. After sewing on the top band, you want to fold it up this way and iron that seam. Now we can take this folded edge and we want to bring it down and fold it down over that seam. You want this folded edge to be covering that seam line. If it's not covering the seam line, you can make a little bit of an adjustment to the fold, and then you just want to pin it in place. And I want to pin it from this side. And you'll do this all the way around, and when you're done, we're going to top stitch 1/4 of an inch away from that edge right there. Now we'll do our top stitching and the bag will be finished. I'm going to use a stitch length of 3.0 and I will back stitch at both ends. Make sure that you don't sew through your handles. And here's your bag all completed. I did manage to cover up that stitching line on the inside of the bag as I did my top stitching, and that's how you want it to look. Well, I do hope that you've enjoyed watching this video. I always enjoy bringing these projects to you. I want to thank everyone who's liked my videos and subscribed to my channel. I truly do appreciate all of your support, and I do read all of the comments and I try to answer as many of them as I can. If you're not already a subscriber, I would love to have you as one, so please like and subscribe.